Good morning. Today I want to talk to you about hay bale gardening. Um, I'm a farmer. I've been a farmer all my life. My father was a farmer. My grandfather was a farmer. And I've been raising hay, alfalfa hay, for 30 years. All of my crops are USDA certified organic. I have been for 12 years now. And I wanted to make some video on hay bale gardening, and I know you'll notice I didn't say straw bale gardening. I've seen a lot of videos on straw bale gardening. There's books written on straw bale gardening. I don't want to sound too critical because it obviously does work. I mean, you can grow plants in straw, but there's several reasons why, me personally, I would not use straw. For one thing, straw is a byproduct of a grain crop like wheat or barley. Whenever they cut the barley or wheat off, they bale the straw, and in the first place, straw has no nutritional value. Back when I used to dairy several years ago, we used straw for bedding for the cows to lay on, and they wouldn't eat it because there's no nutritional value in it. So I don't understand exactly why people would use straw to garden in. The other thing with straw is if you use straw bales to garden in, that straw is much more likely to have a residue of herbicides or pesticides or both in that straw. Unfortunately, that's the way our farming has become over the years. There's an abundant use of herbicides and pesticides. Matter of fact, when you go to your grocery store and you buy your produce thinking that you're going to eat healthy, and I'm not belittling this, you should eat a lot of vegetables and fruits, but we live in a day and age where most of those vegetables, if they're not certified organic, have been sprayed with a herbicide or pesticide or both. And for me, the reason I do this kind of gardening to begin with is I want to produce vegetables that are wholesome, that are organic, that have not been sprayed or have anything on them. So what I want to tell you about the difference between hay bale and straw bale. What I use is quality alfalfa hay to grow my garden in. Alfalfa, as opposed to straw, alfalfa is the king of all hays. It is amazing. It is packed full of nutrients. It's loaded with protein and up to 22% protein. It's got all kinds of nutrients in it. And the difference is when you see these videos online about straw bale, everybody's amending those bales. They're putting in blood meal or bone meal or something so that their plants will grow in the straw. This garden that you see in front of you has no amendments. This is nothing but alfalfa hay. That's it. I didn't put anything on here, absolutely nothing. And what I did is I got 2-string bales. They weigh about 60 pounds apiece, and I buried them in the ground. You can see this kind of a U-shaped here. I don't really recommend the U-shape. If you've got lots of room, you should spread it out more. It's going to get so crowded in here when these plants get full grown. It'll be hard to walk in here. That's one reason I've got these rubber mats. It's just easier to walk in here. I put these bales in the ground. I dug a trench and I buried them in the ground to where the tops of the bales were about 2 inches below the surface, the ground level. And the reason I did that is once you put the bales in the ground, you have to soak them with water. They go through when you start soaking them with water, they go through a process called anaerobic fermentation, and they start fermenting inside. And they'll heat up. They actually get up to around 120 degrees inside. And that process takes, I would say somewhere between 2 and 3 weeks for them to go through that fermentation process. And once those bales cool back down, then you can start planting your seedlings into there. I've never planted seed into these bales. I think it would work. To me, it just works so well to put seedlings in here. So I buried these on February the 1st of this year, and I started watering them down. I did that several times. Matter of fact, I just flooded them because it was down below the ground level. I just filled the whole hole full of water and had water sitting on top of the bales. And then on April the 15th, I came in and I planted seedlings. These 2 squash plants here. These three tomato plants were planted on April the 15th. And you can see today is May the 20th, so they're a little over a month old. You know, they're what, 35 days old, or when I say old, that's how long they've been in the bales. And they were little bitty plants when I put them in. They were probably 8 inches tall, had 3 or 4 leaves on them, and you can see what they've done in such a short period of time. These 2 squash plants here, I put in on the 2nd, and today's the 20th, so they've been in the bales for 18 days. They also were only like 2 or 3 leaves, 3 or 4 leaves when I put them in the bales. We had several winds here lately, and you can see they're kind of roughed up on the edges because of the wind, but they're doing great. They made the transition fine. So what I do, you can see here, the bale strings are on top. I left them on top and buried them that way. And then the process, after they go through this, I'll show you what it looks like inside. After they go through the fermentation process, you can see this stuff is kind of, it's a little bit yucky, to be honest, almost kind of slimy, but the plants absolutely love it. They really feed off of this, off the nutrients in this alfalfa hay. It's amazing what it does, and like I said, I've not put anything in these bales at all. They are just nothing but alfalfa hay. Now, I was going to tell you, when you start watering down the alfalfa bales, they will start stinking. They'll put off an aroma of it's pretty stinky for about 2 or 3 weeks. They'll put off an aroma, pretty strong aroma. But then after that, the smell goes away and you never smell them again. So don't worry about that part of it. As you can see, the tomatoes are doing great. They're putting on little tomatoes left and right. Most of them, I don't have anything ready to eat yet, but you can see that they're really starting to put on now. The other thing about burying these bales, the first year I did this, I've done this is the 4th year. The first year I did it, I had the bales on top of the ground, and it does work. But the problem is, as the season goes on and as the plants get bigger and bigger, and they're feeding off of that bale of hay, then that bale is going to get really loose. I mean, as it's feeding, that part of the bale is diminishing. So by the end of the season, the bales are really, really loose and trying to fall over, and it's a mess. So this works so much better to put it in the ground like this. The way I water, you can see I've got this drip hose, and what I did is I came down one side of the plants and then turned around and came back on the other side of the plants, and I staked them down. I've got some metal stakes that I got at a garden supply place, and I stake it down with those. And I water these, as the plants get bigger, I water more often. So right now, for instance, I'm watering about 30 minutes every other day, because this big a plant needs a lot of water. So, but it works perfectly. To me, there's no better way to grow vegetables than this. And I recommend it to anyone. Matter of fact, I'll continue to. I've got a greenhouse right next to me, and I use it some too, mainly in the winter months. But as far as just planting a garden and growing vegetables, there's nothing like hay bale gardening. So I'm going to leave you with that. Psalms 118:24 says, "This is the day the Lord hath made; we will rejoice and be glad in it." Have a great day. Happy gardening. Bye.